There's no religious basis for the Jews to control Palestine. That goes against the Jewish religion, and they know it. I mean, why isn't Ben Shapiro in Jerusalem right now? Why doesn't he live in Israel? He's living in California. Well, he's just like those extremist Muslim keyboard jihadi types, you know, who go on and on about Sharia and Khilafah and Islamic State and all of that. But you couldn't pry them out of their suburban homes in Houston or Los Angeles because they know they're just talking rubbish. Ben Shapiro claims to be an Orthodox Jew. Well, the only evidence that there is that he is an Orthodox Jew is exactly the fact that he doesn't live in Israel, because Orthodox Jews know it's wrong. But he still goes hysterical in his demented defense of Zionism. That's not a Jewish Orthodox position, but he works for the Daily Wire. He's a co-owner of the Daily Wire. But the Daily Wire was started by Ferris Wilks, who's a man who belongs to a radical right-wing quasi-Christian sect. And their church, the church that man belongs to, is a weird pastiche of Christians and so-called Jews for Jesus. Now, Ben Shapiro is an imposter Orthodox Jew. He's an oxymoron, promoting deeply anti-Judaic Zionism while not living in Israel, because he works for a cult. It's called the Assemblies of Yahweh. Look it up. It's a strange admixture of Judaism and Christianity. And they have this idea that the world is under something called the beast system, and they're obsessed with the idea of a one world government and so on. They're just like the Imran Hussein types, you know, who go on and on about the Dajjal system and all that. They're fanatic cultists, posing as traditional conservatives. And Dennis Prager's the same. These people don't care about Jews. They don't care about Judaism. They're insane. They want to bring about what they call the Great Tribulation. And this intersects then with the fanatic evangelical Christians who daydream about Armageddon. I'm telling you, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. And these are the same people who are always talking about logic and reason and facts don't care about your feelings, but they are literally crazy people. They may as well believe in the mothership. But what they all have in common is anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism, anti-Orthodox religion. And they're among Netanyahu's biggest cheerleaders. You know, you people are always talking about the so-called dangers of Muslim extremism, but you have been empowering, arming, funding, promoting, supporting, and whitewashing the most violent, the most dangerous, the most savage, the most radical form of extremism there is. And you've been doing it for decades. A genocidal, apocalyptic, inhuman extremism, and that's Zionism. Zionism has killed more people in just the last 3 weeks than have died in the Russian-Ukraine war in almost 2 years. It's a plague on humanity, and it's a plague on the Jews. But what the Orthodox Jews believe about Bani Ismail, about the Muslims, is right. What they say about the Muslims is right. What they believe about the Muslims is right. We are the people who will establish justice and righteousness and integrity on the earth. It's the Muslim world that's been mediating during this conflict. It's the Muslims who've been engaging in nonstop diplomacy. It's the Muslims who are trying to achieve a ceasefire. It's the Muslims who are trying to prevent this conflict from escalating and spreading throughout the region. It's the Muslims who are upholding their agreements, who are keeping their word, and who are trying to assert some sanity in this madness. And it's the Muslims who are maneuvering the United States and the West out of the scenario. It's the Muslims, the Muslim public all around the world, who are undertaking all types of nonviolent protest and opposition to try to end the Zionist carnage in Gaza. It's the Muslims who are displaying civilized self-restraint and discipline, even while our hearts are burning with anger and anguish for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. And it's the Muslims, just like in Malaysia, where they're boycotting Starbucks so strong that that company might have to shut down in that country. It's the Muslims who are pioneering a new approach and a new philosophy of political activism that can potentially empower the masses all around the world to confront the tyrannical power of the private sector. The Muslims are leading the liberation struggle against every form of imperialism and colonialism there is, not just in Palestine, but in Niger, in Burkina Faso against the French, in Tunisia against the IMF, in Indonesia and Malaysia against the US dollar, and yes, in the Gulf states against American and Western hegemony in the Middle East. And good, decent, moral people everywhere are being brought to their senses about Zionism and about Western imperialism and brutality. The barbarity and the fanaticism of the Zionists is getting exposed all across social media. And the faith and the moral power of the Palestinians is juxtaposed right alongside that. The warmongering of the West and the restraint and the diplomacy of the Muslim world are being witnessed by everyone in stark contrast. I wouldn't be surprised if for every martyr that they kill in Gaza, someone somewhere takes the Shahada, because the truth stands out clear from falsehood, and it doesn't stand out any clearer anywhere than it does right now in Palestine.